Hi everyone, I'm sorry for the delay in this video. I had a lot of thoughts I wanted to put together and they just kept kind of running flat and not as impactful as I'd hoped they would be. And I'm not sure how many people are watching these videos, but even if I inspire one person and myself along the way, maybe it's worth it. So here we go. How to stay healthy during the holidays. So I'm going to speak specifically with the impending holidays coming. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur is not so relevant other than the before and the after, and the Sukkot holidays. So whether you're an observant Jew, a practicing Jew, a traditional Jew, whatever you are, or if you are of another faith and you have your own holidays coming, I think this message is relevant to any holiday. And if any of the language I use is unclear, you'll get the general sense of what I'm trying to communicate, which is how to maintain a healthy mindset, to safeguard some habits that will set you up for success. Because a lot of times what happens with a holiday is you go in with good intentions. You're usually busy, whether it's preparing presents, meals, whatever the tasks are, and you have all these goals, right? And you get to the actual holiday, sitting down at that meal or to any part of the traditional ceremonies, and you start to lose your footing, whether it's because you get distracted or you're enticed by that cake or whatever the reality is. We have our goals and then we have our outcomes, and they don't always line up. And we then punish ourselves, throw caution to the wind, make a number of bad decisions, and then say, I'll start after the holidays. Or in 2 weeks, I'll start my diet. I don't like that language, because if diets are yo-yo, then we're playing around with our metabolism and often leading to failure, and we're better than that, right? So my idea here is to be more thoughtful about your intentions going in. So I'm going to speak specifically to Rosh Hashanah. There's an unbelievable amount of meals, whether it's lunch, whether it's dinner, which is late, which is harder to actually digest the food, so it's harder to metabolize. There's a lot of standing, there's a lot of practice in the synagogue, in the shul, and so there's a lot of back and forth. And we are not in our customary routine, and we get disoriented. And we don't hydrate as well, we're more sedentary, we have a lot of negative self-talk because we're trying to focus on the spiritual element of the holiday, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, I just ate like a whole loaf of bread and tons of challah at the meal, well over the prescribed amount of like a serving size. So what is best practices is to start your day after hopefully 6 to 8 hours of sleep. May not be so realistic if meals are ending late, but to start your day before you do anything with a few cleansing breaths, setting your intention even before you wash, and do Nagel Wasser and then say your brachot and all the things that you typically do in the morning before you leave the bed. There's some nice cleansing breaths, setting your intention, clearing your mind. Maybe after you do your morning routine and before you go to synagogue or you set that table up, you take about 2, maybe even 1 I'd be satisfied with, large glasses of water, and you hydrate. Because if you're often dehydrated, then the body misreads that as hunger and you eat more than you would like to. You stand on your feet, you do all the things that you would necessarily have to do for the holiday in the synagogue or wherever you're practicing. And then you come back for the meals. And the meals are often very carb heavy, which there's nothing wrong with carbs, but in excess, it's hard on our system to actually break the food down. So what I typically say is a 1-plate rule. Now, that's not so easy because there's many courses. So maybe really eyeball, I'm not talking measure your food. You want to have still joy in the holiday. You want to be a slave to your food. But eyeball common serving sizes and limit that intake. Really chew slowly instead of wolfing food down your throat. Try to move that challah board, that bread board, to another part of the table if you're distracted and you tend to keep taking pieces. Just kind of treat yourself like a regimented human and take one whole piece, and that's sufficient. Because if you keep in this mindset that you're going to be eating a lot of bread, a lot of challah, then even if you're gluten-free challah is still also just as heavy on the system. If you leave it to one big nice slice per meal, it's better than 2 to 3. And to load up your plate half when you get to that main course with vegetables, whether they're raw or steamed or sauteed or roasted. A quarter your protein, so that's about 4 to 6 ounces, and a quarter for your carbs. There's no reason why you can't enjoy additional carbs, whether it's kugel, potatoes, root vegetables, whatever it is. And to actually wait a few minutes before you eat each item, each course, and to really, keep it simple and filling your plate with smart choices. If you want to have dessert, fine, but maybe choose dessert at one meal instead of both meals, or maybe a fruit dessert at one and then a, cakey dessert at another. There's no reason why you shouldn't enjoy life. Holidays are about enjoying the foods, enjoying the company, enjoying the experiencing, immersing yourself in the traditions. But there's no reason why we have to indulge ourselves to the point where we feel exhausted, heavy, and guilty in a sense that we're regretting certain things on a time when we're supposed to be focused on the goodness. So really being mindful and being supportive, socializing away from the food. So after you finish that meal and you bench and you conclude that experience, each meal, and there are many of them, go to the couch and schmooze with your family. Play a board game. Go take a nap after you've digested the food, because it's really hard in the system to load it up and then go straight to bed. We can't do exercise videos necessarily during the holidays. Some do, and you do you. But most often it's really hard to fit it in. So try to sit maybe like right after the meal or 30 minutes to an hour after the meal before you maybe take a nap. Take a walk around the block. It doesn't need to be a marathon. It doesn't need to be a way where you're, breaking a sweat and, pumping those arms and getting sweaty, which is not advisable for many on the holidays, but to just take some movement, to build that circulation, to allow that metabolism to move the way we want it to feel refreshed, to re-energize. And that's great to do. Even I always take a longer route to shul, because if I walk before, I'm actually more focused in my prayer service, my tefillah. So these are things that you can also wire your thinking and your plans around. Is to hydrate as often as you can, to be conscious about how much consumption, to move things away if they're too tempting and you feel like kind of a slave to it, to communicate with others away from the table, because I know that food and meals are about being social, but they don't have to be the entirety of the time. To in between the two different holidays that are coming, to really insert a little bit more exercise, better hydration, managing your stress, as we've talked about. And I know all these things are easier said than done, so pick one. Maybe conquering them all might feel too daunting and then you'll just throw the towel in. You have to set realistic goals. I know I say it a lot, but implementing it is key. Now, let's talk about if you are fasting for Yom Kippur. It's really important to choose protein-heavy foods. Lots of hydration foods, more than actually carbs. I think people think pasta, bagels, all those things for carbs, but you burn them really quickly and then you hit kind of a wall and hit these hunger pains by when you need to feel fulfilled the most, which is 2 or 3 o'clock in the next day when prayer service gets typically heavy and you really need energy. I usually advise watermelon juice, cherries, grapes, hydration through fruit and hydration through, lots of vegetables, cucumbers, celery. Those are high in water content. So you'll actually extend the lifespan of your hydration, which is really what is where we feel deprived in fasts. I have very low blood pressure. So fasts for me are about really heavy hydration throughout the entire day, not just the hour before, the entire day leading up. A lot of people think, Powerades, Gatorade are the way to go. I actually advise against that because they have high sugar and usually you get hydrated, but then you burn it out from all that sugar. So classic water. You can buy, performance waters, smart water, so that it actually extends it a little bit longer. Those fruits and vegetables I talked about. Now, how do you recover after a fast? A lot of people gorge themselves on the carbs. Now, it's fine to have a bagel. But again, you're going to hit a wall. It's going to be really hard to digest, and it's going to shock the system. So I usually say, some salad, first drink a big, tall glass of water out when the fast ends, and then add your proteins, and then subsequently add some light carbs. Complex carbs are best before and after complex, or like your brown rice, your whole wheat, and those kind of things. Simple are usually the white flours, white sugars, which burn fast and don't give you what you need to extend and survive throughout that entire time. Into the Sukkot meals, it's a lot, so employ the strategies that I gave over for Rosh Hashanah and some of those holidays. But the most important thing is to pause. When you feel like your mind and your body are moving too fast, you're overwhelmed, you're not staying on top of your decisions in a way that you're going to feel proud of and harder to come back to not only this program, but to the regimen you had beforehand. And you can criticize that regimen all you want. It's still a regimen. We want to be perfect, but even if we get close, that's still victory. So pace yourself. Walk as often as you can. Stretch before long standing periods in synagogue or wherever you pray. That's what's going to lead to success. Talk about your successes and any of your weaknesses with people you can trust so they can cheer you on and cheer them on too. That helper's high of helping other people also carries value in that endorphin category. You can do this. Ask me if you need any help. And I'm wishing you, most importantly, a healthy, happy holiday season, new year, whatever we are in faith. We all can say that this year, this time of year is kind of a rebirth and that we're taking care of ourselves along the way. So I'm cheering you on, and happy, happy holidays. To those that practice Shana Tova, it should be a healthy, happy new year for all.